So there are three things that are the biggest things that you can control in your finances. If you get a handle on these things, you can really blow up financially. The three things that basically are the biggest things that we spend money on in our lives. Can you guess them? Go ahead and comment below if you can guess them. One is housing. The second is transportation. And the third is food or going out, restaurant. Okay. And so these three things, if you can control them, then you can limit your expenses and make a bigger margin between your expenses and how much you earn. And then you'll be able to take that difference and invest it and make money much quicker. So what are some examples for housing? First of all, you don't need the biggest and best house. You don't need your dream home when you're starting out, right? People, there's something called a starter home that people used to always have, okay? Now everybody wants to come right out the gate and get their dream home. You can get your dream home later on if you want, but you don't have to start out that way. So if you can save $100,000 or $200,000 by getting, you know, a smaller house or maybe just a 3-2 instead of a 4-3 or a 4-2, that's $100,000 or $200,000. But over a mortgage of 30 years, who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars you can save by doing that. And so housing is a big deal. Or you can buy a duplex. Another example for housing. You buy a duplex instead of buying a single family home, and you live in one side of the duplex and you rent out the other side, and the rent money that you collect from that side ends up paying your mortgage. And so you lose your housing payment right there. You don't have a housing payment. Now, it's not ideal when you have a wife and kids to be right next to someone in a duplex, but if you can pull that, or if you can run that at least for a few months or excuse me, a few years, or convince your wife to do that for a few years, you are going to save yourself tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. So that's something that you can do for housing. Another example is if you're a single person, just living at home for a few years. I talk about in this video right here how you can really do something like that in your 20s to save, say, $100,000 or a couple $100,000 that can then buy a house and set you up for your retirement as well. And so if you live with mom and dad, a lot of you out there are living with mom and dad anyways, but if you're living with mom and dad and they're charging you maybe a couple $100 for rent or for rent and food, and then you're making, say, $3,000 a month and your expenses are only, say, $750 a month or something, then you take the difference and you invest it. That is how your money can grow very quickly at an early age. The more house you buy, the more associated costs you also have to consider. You're not only buying a larger mortgage payment, but you're buying higher utility costs, higher landscaping costs, real estate taxes, higher AC bills. I mean, furnishing, remodeling, these are all higher costs when you have more house to take care of. Let's talk about the second one, which is car, okay? A car, transportation. If you have a $500, $700, $800, $900 car payment every month that you are paying just to keep up with the Joneses, you might want to reconsider that car payment and instead take that $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 and put it into an index fund like the S&P 500. This is not financial advice, but you would do yourself a favor by doing something like that and just driving a, okay car. I'm not saying it's a clunker that you're going to be spending money on to fix every other week, but You can get just a reliable average car instead of, getting an Escalade, or a Yukon. Trust me, I would love to have a Yukon, but I want my dividends to pay for that Yukon. I don't want my, primary principal to be paying for that Yukon. And so you can get a good, reliable car that is much, much better price if you could get it, say, a $20,000 or $30,000 car versus an 70, 80, $90,000 car, and then take that difference and put it into index funds. You are going to grow at a lot better rate, and you're not going to put yourself upside down trying to keep up with the Joneses. An automobile, let's just say you buy an automobile for $30,000. As soon as you drive that vehicle off of the lot, it already has lost $2,500 of its value. And within a year of driving that car around, it's lost $6,000 or 20% of its value already, at least in the first year. So that's something to think about. That $6,000 you could have put into an index fund, and that money could be growing for you. And finally, food slash restaurant. If you cook your own food, you will save a lot of money versus going out and eating out a lot of time. You might not even realize how much money you spend on going out, because you're thinking, I'll just go to, I was going to say Subway, but their prices are actually not too bad. But if you do it consistently, you can still spend a lot of money. But say a Firehouse Subs, like I love Firehouse Subs, steak and cheese, like yes, the brisket, yes. But those sandwiches, they're like $20 per sandwich. If you're doing that, every day or a few times a week, you are going to rack up a big restaurant bill. Every time you go out, think about when you go out to a restaurant, if it's you and somebody else, you're probably spending $100 just to go out for that day. And so, instead, stay home, cook your own food, and you will save yourself a lot of money. So those are three really important things: housing, transportation, and food. And just as a bonus tip for transportation, some people, if they are close enough to their jobs and they don't have kids, say, some people just bike to work, or they will, ride a scooter, electric scooter to work or something, and just save on the transportation bills and all of the bills that are associated with that transportation, like insurance, like gas, all of those different things. And so those are three very important things that if you can control, again, the difference between your expenses and what you make, and then take the difference and invest it in something like the S&P 500 or an index fund. This is not financial advice. You will find yourself in a much better situation financially. If you're not sure what your FI number is, check out that video right there. Please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.